zusammen and welcome to lesson number 3 in a 30-part series German in 30 days. And in today's lesson I'm going to guide you through some very important grammar points in German. Firstly, I'm going to introduce you to 3 irregular German verbs. Fahren, to go, nehmen, to take, and sprechen, to speak. Secondly, I'll teach you 3 more modal verbs. I'll show you how to make sentences with modal verbs, how to make positive statements, how to form questions with and without question words. Next up, we've got the negative particle nicht. So, in this lesson, you will learn how to negate any statement in German. After that, attention please, you'll learn one of the most frequently used German words ever, the German indefinite pronoun Mann, which is not the same as the English man, I'm afraid to say, and it is very versatile, very useful and practical. I'll show you in a moment why. And then at the end of the lesson, I am going to teach you some prepositions in German that require the accusative case. Before we get started, I've got 2 announcements to make. Firstly, I've created 5 sentences for you guys. There you go. To check on your knowledge, where you're at, whether or not you are making progress. Those sentences are based on the first 2 lessons. I will put the sentences and the answers to those sentences in the description box down below. Secondly, this lesson is a continuation of what we have done so far. So, if you haven't watched the previous 2 lessons, you definitely should, because if you want to be able to follow me, if you want to be able to connect the dots, if you want to eventually achieve the fundamental elementary level in German, A1/A2, then you need every single piece of the puzzle. The dialogue time to be able to do the exercises later on. Yuki möchte in die Stadt. Yuki wants to go to town. And she's talking to Mrs. Gluck at whose place she's based, right? Ich möchte in die Stadt fahren. Dann nehmen Sie am besten die U-Bahn. Wo ist denn die Haltestelle? Gleich um die Ecke. Wohin fährt die U-Bahn? Direkt ins Zentrum. Wie viele Stationen muss ich denn fahren? 4 Stationen bis ins Zentrum. Wo kann ich eine Fahrkarte für die U-Bahn kaufen? Am Automaten oder am Kiosk. Kaufen Sie am besten eine Streifenkarte. Guten Morgen, eine Streifenkarte bitte. Bitte schön, 9 €. Ich will in die Stadt. Wie viele Streifen muss ich stempeln? 2 Streifen. Auf Wiedersehen. This text contains everything that we are going to be covering today, and it's very informative, so let's get started. In the first lesson, we have learned that German verbs are conjugated. What does it mean? That depending on the personal pronoun, we need a different ending. I mean, in English, the only change that is made is the third person singular. I go to school, he goes to school. That's right. In German, nearly every personal pronoun requires a different ending. This is meant by conjugation, right? So we've had so far ich wohne, er wohnt, wir wohnen, right? The conjugation of the irregular verbs is a bit different to the conjugation of regular verbs because, first of all, we still need those endings depending on the personal pronoun, but some changes are made to the stem of the verb. Let's take a closer look. First verb is fahren, to go. Ich fahre nach Köln. I go to Cologne. Du fährst nach Köln. Er fährt nach Köln. Sie fährt nach Köln. Es fährt nach Köln. Wir fahren nach Köln. Ihr fahrt nach Köln. Sie fahren nach Köln. So, take a second to recognize the changes. Right, so the endings that we are now familiar with are the same pretty much, right? Ich fahre, ich wohne. But du fährst. Aha, there you go. A turns into ä. So this is the R with two dots above it, right? A turns into ä. It's called a umlaut, right? Du fährst. So second person singular. Er fährt, sie fährt, es fährt. Right. Now we've got it. Two instances, we've identified them. Second person singular and third person singular. The rest remains the same. Ihr fahrt. I know it causes a lot of associations on your part, but trust me, ihr fahrt has nothing to do with the farting process in English. But perhaps you can recognize and remember this word better. Why not? It's something to do with emotions, they say in the research, how to better memorize words. Right, next verb is nehmen, to take. Ich nehme den Bus. I take the bus. Du nimmst den Bus. Er nimmt den Bus. Sie nimmt den Bus. Es nimmt den Bus. Wir nehmen den Bus. Ihr nehmt den Bus. Sie nehmen den Bus. Aha! Again, two instances that have to catch your eye in comparison to the first and the second lesson, right? Because what has happened in the third person singular and in the second person singular, E in nehmen turns into I. Nimmst, nimmt. That's why it's called an irregular verb. And the third verb is sprechen, to speak. Ich spreche Deutsch. Du sprichst Deutsch. Er spricht Deutsch. Sie spricht Deutsch. Es spricht Deutsch. Wir sprechen Deutsch. Ihr sprecht Deutsch. Sie sprechen Deutsch. Again. Why is it called an irregular verb? Well, because second person singular, du sprichst. Third person singular, er, sie, es spricht Deutsch. E in sprechen turns into I. Sprichst, spricht. That's all to it. Exercise time. Make questions using the Z form. I've told you already that there is this differentiation between formal and informal you in German, and the capitalized Z is the formal case, right? So, the first sentence is, was möchtest du trinken? And we have to change to Sie, right? And we know this is super simple because Sie corresponds to the infinitive in German, yeah? Which ends in en. So, was möchten Sie trinken? I don't even have to double think, right? 2. Wohin willst du fahren? Wohin wollen Sie fahren, right? 3. Wohin fährst du? Wohin fahren Sie? 4. Was nimmst du? Was nehmen Sie? Next up are 3 modal verbs. We are extending your list of modal verbs because if you know modal verbs, nothing can happen to you. You can express almost anything, right? We've had already können, which expresses ability. Ich kann Deutsch, right? I can speak German. We've had möchten, ich möchte einen Kaffee, which is the subjunctive case of mögen. So the super polite form for want to, right? I'd like a cup of tea or coffee, please, right? And then we've had dürfen, which expresses permission or prohibition, right? Ich darf gehen, I may go, if you remember. Today we'll learn wollen, which is want to, sollen, which is ought to, and müssen, which is have to. Right, let's conjugate wollen. Ich will Chinesisch lernen. I want to learn Chinese, which is true. Du willst Chinesisch lernen. Er will Chinesisch lernen. Sie will Chinesisch lernen. Es will Chinesisch lernen. Wir wollen Chinesisch lernen. Ihr wollt Chinesisch lernen. Sie wollen Chinesisch lernen. Nothing new to us, right? We know that the first person singular and the third person singular are identical when it comes to the modal verbs, right? Ich will, er will, sie will, es will. The rest is the same. Right, let's move on to sollen, which is ought to or should. Ich soll mehr üben. I have to practice more. Du sollst mehr üben. Er soll mehr üben. Sie soll mehr üben. Es soll mehr üben. Wir sollen mehr üben. Ihr sollt mehr üben. Sie sollen mehr üben. Again, ich soll, first person singular, er soll, sie soll, es soll. Identical, right? First and the third person singular. And the last one for today is müssen. Have to. Ich muss gehen. I have to go. Du musst gehen. Er muss gehen. Sie muss gehen. Es muss gehen. Wir müssen gehen. Ihr müsst gehen. Sie müssen gehen. First person singular, ich. Third person singular, er, sie, es. Muss, right? Ich muss, first person singular. Er, sie, es muss, third person singular. The rest is the same. So in terms of the meaning of the modal verbs, the new ones, wollen obviously expresses an intention, a desire, a wish, right? Ich will Chinesisch lernen. I want to learn Chinese, right? Sollen obviously expresses a piece of advice and recommendation. Du sollst mehr üben. You should practice more. And müssen obviously expresses necessity. Ich muss gehen. I have to go. Right, now a couple of exercises to practice more. Exercise number 1, we've got 4 sentences and we've got to make questions using the Sie form. Do you remember, guys, we've got this differentiation between the formal and the informal you in German, and the capitalized Sie, so Sie is they, right, means that we have this formal polite address, right? But in terms of grammar, it's super simple because it corresponds to the infinitive, which always, without exception, ends in en, right? So, Sie sollen, Sie fahren, and so on and so forth. Sentence number 1. Was möchtest du trinken? We've got to change du to Sie and möchtest to möchten, right? Was möchten Sie trinken? Sentence number 2. Wohin willst du fahren? Again, do turns into Sie, right? Wohin wollen Sie fahren? Nummer 3. Wohin fährst du? Wohin fahren Sie? Nummer 4. Was nimmst du? Was nehmen Sie? Now, exercise number 2, we've got 5 sentences and you've got to complete the sentences using the correct form of wollen. 1. Das Kind will Schokolade. 2. Wir wollen in die Stadt fahren. 3. Yuki will eine Fahrkarte kaufen. 4. Frau Glück und Yuki wollen Kaffee trinken. 5. Du willst Deutsch lernen. Word order in sentences with modal verbs. Take a look at this sentence. Yuki kann im Wohnzimmer Fernsehen. Yuki can watch telly in the living room, right? So we've got kann, the modal verb, second position, and Fernsehen, lexical verb, full verb, main verb, last position, right? Yuki will in die Stadt fahren, right? Will, modal verb, second position, and fahren, lexical verb, last position. So, questions with question words and modal verbs, right? Wo kann ich eine Fahrkarte kaufen, right? Wo, first position, question word, second position, kann, modal verb, and last position is our full verb, kaufen, right? Wie viele Stationen muss ich denn fahren? Wie viele Stationen is our question phrase. Muss is our modal verb, second position, and fahren at the end of the question, right? Questions without question words. I mean, we've had so far kommen Sie aus Deutschland, right? So kommen, first position, okay? Darf ich Mainzel streicheln, right? May I stroke Mainzel, right? Modal verb, first position, and lexical verb, last position, okay? In the second lesson, I said, ich kann Deutsch. And obviously what I meant was I can speak German, right? But because the meaning of sprechen was clear from the context, I've dropped it, right? And this is sort of permissible. You can omit the full verb if it's clear from the context. So, ich kann Deutsch, and then in brackets sprechen, right? Ich möchte eine Cola, in brackets trinken. Ich möchte eine Pizza, in brackets essen. Right? So, practice time for sentences. We need to change them so that we can have both in our sentences, modal verbs and full lexical verbs. Sentence number 1. Yuki spricht Deutsch. Yuki kann Deutsch sprechen. Right? Number 2. Yuki fährt in die Stadt. Yuki will in die Stadt fahren. Sie kauft eine Fahrkarte. Sie muss eine Fahrkarte kaufen, because if she gets caught, she gets fined and she doesn't want to get into trouble, does she? 4. Sie stempelt die Fahrkarte. Sie muss die Fahrkarte stempeln, otherwise it's equal to, schwarz fahren, which is using the public transport without a ticket, okay? Next up is the indefinite pronoun man, which has nothing to do with the English man, as you know by now, right? So there are some interesting things grammatically which have to do with a man. Man is never capitalized. Man is always used in the nominative and in the third person singular. And it is super versatile. It could be translated into English as they, like when you use people, like in general, right? Sometimes you use you, right? It's the same as man in German. Exercise number 4. We've got 4 sentences. Complete the sentences with the correct forms of können, dürfen, müssen, mögen, sollen or wollen. Nummer 1. Darf ich Ihnen das Zimmer zeigen? I think you could also use kann or soll, right? Always consider the context. Nummer 2. Du musst eine Fahrkarte kaufen. Du sollst eine Fahrkarte kaufen. Du kannst eine Fahrkarte kaufen. Right. Nummer 3. Yuki muss 2 Streifen stempeln. Right. Und Nummer 4. Ihr sollt nicht streiten. Ihr dürft nicht streiten. Ihr könnt nicht streiten. Ihr müsst nicht streiten. Ihr wollt nicht streiten. Anything goes. I mean, if it makes sense in a certain context, right? Exercise number 5. Complete the sentences with the correct forms of können, dürfen or müssen. Number 1. Hier darf man parken. Number 2. Hier darf man nicht parken. Number 3. Hier muss man abbiegen. Number 4. Hier darf man nicht rauchen. Number 5. Hier kann man Kaffee trinken. Right? So, negative particle nicht. If you want to negate things in German, you put the negative particle nicht after the verb. For example, kommen Sie aus Deutschland? Nein, ich komme nicht aus Deutschland. Sprechen Sie Chinesisch? Nein, ich spreche nicht Chinesisch. Das Zimmer ist klein. Nein, das Zimmer ist nicht klein. Right? And in a sentence with a modal verb, what happens is, nicht comes between the two verbs. Right? Ich kann nicht kommen. Du sollst nicht rauchen. So, 4 sentences to complete with nicht. Ich gehe nicht in die Stadt. 2. Wir fahren nicht nach Paris. 3. Ich möchte nicht Fernsehen. 4. Die U-Bahn fährt nicht ins Zentrum. Prepositions in German can require the accusative case, the dative case or the genitive case. We have briefly touched upon the accusative case, right? So let's now do the prepositions with accusative case because they are very common. I mean, which is not the same in English, right? The example sentence that I've made is: Kannst du mir die E-Mail bis nächsten Sonntag schicken? Can you send me the email till next Sunday? Bis nächsten Sonntag. We know Sonntag is der masculine, right? Based on last video. And in the accusative case, we've got this tiny little en at the end, right? With masculine nouns. And so, bis nächsten Sonntag, right? Then we've got durch, through, right? Der Zug fährt durch den Tunnel. Der Tunnel, in the accusative case, den Tunnel. Next one is für. Das Eis ist für das Kind. Das Eis ist für das Kind. We know Kind, neuter nouns, and we also know that in the accusative case, nothing happens to the feminine nouns and the neuter nouns. Das Kind, für das Kind. Next one is gegen. Okay? Das Auto fährt gegen den Baum. Der Baum, so masculine. In the accusative case, den Baum, right? So ich möchte einen Kaffee. Das Auto fährt gegen den Baum, alright? And last 2 ones are ohne and Wir reisen ohne Geld die Welt. Right. Money happens to be uncountable, so ohne Geld, no article. Die Welt, the world, right, stays die Welt because in the accusative case nothing happens, right? Wir reisen ohne Geld die Welt. Okay? The preposition in is a bit tricky because it can go with the accusative case and also with the dative case. But today we will take a look at the instances when it requires the accusative case. So, we've had a sentence, Yuki will in die Stadt fahren, right? Whenever we can ask a question with wohin, right, which implies direction, right? Wohin will Yuki fahren? Yuki will in die Stadt fahren, right? Then we automatically know that we need the accusative case after the preposition in. In die Stadt, in das Café, in das Museum, in das Konzert, in den Wald, and so on and so forth. Exercise number 8, 7 sentences to complete using the prepositions that I have just taught you. So, Nummer 1. Yuki fährt in die Stadt. Wohin fährt Yuki? Yuki fährt in die Stadt. 2. Ihr geht in den Wald. Anything else? Yep. Ihr geht durch den Wald. Nummer 3. Ohne Geld kann man nichts kaufen. Which is true. 4. Der Zug fährt bis Frankfurt. 5. Die Blumen sind für Frau Gluck. 6. Das Auto fährt um die Ecke. Right? Around the corner. And 7. Der FC Bayern München spielt gegen Real Madrid. Alright guys, well done, excellent work, keep it up, sehr gut. Ihr sollt viel üben und ihr sollt viel sprechen. And I'll see you in lesson number 4 next week.